I'm not pressing any buttons and my character is killing everything around it. I can go completely AFK with this build and still farm events and get all of the loot and XP. This is with a level 69 character against level 75 monsters in a world tier 4. I also killed the Tormented Echo of Varshan, which is level 80, also at level 69, with pretty terrible gear. I'm Asmo, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can build your Necromancer to do the same and more. The minion focused Necromancer is very strong in Season 1, even while one of the most important Malignant hearts that enables a crazy powerful combo is bugged right now, but I'll tell you more about that when we get to the hearts used in this build, which are insanely strong and enable us to do really cool stuff. But for now, let's go over the abilities this build is using. Number 1, we're raising skeletons. Most of our damage will come from them. The Raise Skeleton ability not only allows you to summon the warriors and the mages, but also has an active component that when used on a corpse heals your minions and gives them 30% damage boost. This is huge and you should always try to keep this buff up. From the Book of the Dead, you want to pick up the Reapers with 15% chance to spawn a corpse. We need a lot of corpses on the ground for this build to be effective, and the Skeleton Reapers can make a lot of them once they get on their target. And for the Skeletal Mages, you want to use the Shadow Mages with either the stun for the defense or chance for an extra attack for more damage. Our other minion is the Golem. Most of the time you want to use the Blood Golem, which has an amazing defensive option of absorbing 15% of the damage taken from you, or a huge offensive boost to its damage, which is great for single target. In this build we're also using two corpse skills, Corpse Tendrils and Corpse Explosion. Both of them are going to be triggered automatically but can also be used manually. The Tendrils will pull a pack of monsters together, stun them all and make them vulnerable. This ability perfectly gift wraps monsters for you to blow them all up at once. The Corpse Explosion, on the other hand, does a lot of damage and enables a bunch of synergies for our build. We're using the Blighted Corpse Explosion, which turns it into a Darkness skill that does shadow damage over time, and that works great with the Shadow Blight key passive. The basic skill we're using for this build is Reap. It has the full package. It does shadow damage for our synergies, it gives us attack speed, damage reduction, and it gives the most essence of any basic ability, because for every monster you hit, you'll be getting back 4 essence, and it's very easy to hit a lot of monsters at the same time after they get pulled together by your tendrils. The core ability is completely optional. You don't need to use one because it won't do that much damage, but while leveling you should use Sever. It's amazing for proccing the movement speed from the Reaper's Pursuit and does the most damage of any ability due to the double hit mechanic when severing monsters close to you, and it also scales with the number of active minions we have. The skill tree is very straightforward. We're picking all of the minion and corpse related passives that benefit us, and the main choice you can make comes down to the key passive. Shadow Blight is what you should be using most of the time. However, if you want to do some AFK farming, Kaelan's Edict is also a valid choice, because without actively using our skills, we're not going to be proccing Shadow Blight as often. You will find the full skill tree linked in the description, together with a written version of the guide which you can check out after the video. But now I'm gonna explain one of the most important parts of the build, the aspects and the uniques that make this build what it is. Let's start with the obvious. Bloodgetters and Viscous. They provide you with a +2 bonus to your maximum number of active skeleton warriors and skeleton mages. If you put them on an amulet, that +2 turns into a +3. I personally prefer to put other aspects on my amulet, but if you had to choose, the +1 skeletal warrior is better because your melee skeleton spawns corpses for you, and the more corpses you can have, the better. The protecting aspect and the similarly named aspect of the protector are perfect, especially when AFK farming. Normally the disobedience aspect is stronger, however if you're not going to press any buttons and you will not stack disobedience very well, you'd much rather have a one-shot protection. While AFK you cannot move your character out of the way and avoid big spikes of damage, so the protecting aspect's bubble will keep you alive no matter how much damage comes your way. On the two-handed weapon we're gonna use the aspect of Grasping Vines, which gives us a lot of crit and crit damage. That will be always up in combat. One of the main reasons to use this aspect on a weapon is the fact that we will often replace our weapon, so we want to use an aspect available from the Codex, and our other offensive aspects that would work very well in this slot are drop only. The aspect of the Reanimation and aspect of Frenzied Death. Both of these aspects give us a huge amount of ramping damage to our minions. If you find a maximum roll of one of them, I would definitely put that one on the amulet and then put the other one on a ring. And for the other ring, you have a couple of choices. You can use Aspect of Inner Calm for the AFK farming, or a Blighted Aspect for a temporary but huge damage boost that works better with an active playstyle. Until you can find the unique gloves, you can also use both of them anyway. And speaking of unique gloves, what are the uniques that this build uses and are they mandatory? The first one, and much easier to find, is Haul from Below. Because we're not using a core ability, we don't really care about losing the bonus ranks from gloves slot, and the benefits they give us are perfect for this playstyle. Your corpse explosions will turn into a homing missile skeleton that will seek out enemies and give your corpse explosion a much bigger range. You can spam this skill on corpses all over the place and just bombard the monsters wherever they are from great distance. It's amazing. The second unique, which is a harder one to find, it's not mandatory but it will boost your clear speed, is Ring of Mendel. It gives your minions a big explode proc that activates on a lucky hit, and because our corpse explosion has 46% base chance for the lucky hit, we'll be proccing it very often. It's perfect for blowing up packs gathered by your corpse tendrils, and you don't need this ring for the build to work, but it does help your clear speed. Next, let's go to the gear. Unlike many other builds, the Summoner Necro does not get a lot of damage from the gear. Your minions inherit only 1/3 of your offensive stats, so most of our damage will actually come from the Paragon board and the aspects, while the gear is mostly for defense. As usual, we want the maximum life, armor and damage reduction. Ignore all of the resistances, just get armor and damage reduction instead. On slots like boots, we can also get things like Fortify Generation and Dodge, both of which are very helpful. Our two-handed weapon is going to be a Scythe. This gives us the highest hit value, which is then scaled by our minions' attack speed and provides us with a lot of life on kill. The life on kill, combined with life regeneration while not damaged recently, will heal you in and out of the combat, so you can stay AFK and recover your life without having to actively use your potions. And the bonus ranks to skills that we care about are the ranks to corpse explosions and ranks to all corpse skills, which can be found on the pants and on the amulet. For offensive stats, you're looking mostly for critical strike chance, vulnerable damage and intelligence, as well as all stats to help with the glyph requirements. A lot of your damage will come from the Paragon board and the Glyphs. Here are the Glyphs that you should start leveling if you want to play this build. The Mage, the Warrior and the Golem, each of them buffing their respective minion type. Then we're going for the Dead Raiser, which will boost minion passives on the Cult Leader Paragon board and buff all of its damage. Revenge, which will also buff all of your damage. It does require that you have Thorns on your build, but it's very easy. You only need 1 point in the passive called Spiked Armor, or a single mod on your gear, or an elixir, all of which is very easy to get and you only need one of those things. And the last glyph is Exploit for a generic damage boost. The Paragon boards in this build also have a lot of great legendary nodes that we will actively use. The Cult Leader board has a legendary node with the same name that gives us 45% increased damage, which is absolutely massive. The Flesh Eater gives us 40% increased damage, which is active even while AFK because of the Malignant hearts I will explain in a moment. Scent of Death gives us a nice chunk of damage reduction or bonus damage depending on how many corpses are around you, and you can look up the exact Paragon setup in the written version of the guide in the description. And finally, let's go over the Malignant hearts for Season 1. The Great Feast Wrathful Heart will drain your essence for each minion that you have out to boost their damage up to 100% increased damage. It's an absolutely crazy Malignant heart, and the cool thing about the downside is that it can be completely mitigated by another heart, the Determination Devious Heart. It reduces the resource drain effects on you by up to 100%. However, important to note is that this heart is currently bugged and does literally nothing. The build still works just fine without it, but it is bugged. Hopefully this will be fixed in the patch 1.1.1, but for now we're relying on the Grim Harvest passive and the Reap ability to keep our essence up, which works just fine. The third heart, which you can get really early and makes this build so freaking comfy, is the Sacrilegious Heart. It automatically uses corpse skill every second and it goes from left to right on your action bar. So you want to put your corpse tendrils to the left if you want them to go off first, or corpse explosion to the left if you want that to go off first. This heart will use these abilities all the time, but it won't put them on cooldown, so you can still manually use corpse tendrils, for example, to pull everything together. You can combo the automatic one with the manual one to pull many packs at once, or even to pull monsters around the corners toward you. The corpse explosion will keep going off automatically as well, and because the unique gloves will seek out enemies, automatically damaging them. This is great for AFK farming. This is what makes this build so effective without having to press any buttons. On top of that, the Sacrilegious Heart will automatically summon skeletons if they died, so you don't even have to worry about that. It's an amazing quality of life that we'll probably never get again after Season 1. So if you ever wanted to play a Minion Necromancer, this is the best time to try it. If you found this guide helpful, make sure to subscribe to the channel, check out my other guides, and thank you for watching. See you next time.